Hello there you guys, it's MissCharlottie and welcome back to another video on this channel. Today I'm back with a Sims 4 video, but something that I haven't really done before, like ever, so this is kind of exciting. But today I am bringing you some Sims 4 building tips and tricks. So this was quite requested on my Twitch because I build a lot in The Sims 4. Not saying I'm very good at it, but I just build a lot and I have since the game has come out and since I've got it. And I use a lot of different tips and tricks that to me seem quite normal, but a lot of people don't know and are pretty helpful when building, and so I thought I'd share them with you. This was especially requested since at the moment I have a shell challenge that is due on the last day of this month and I will be touring on Twitch on June 1st. If you would like to check it out, you can search MissCharlottie on the gallery or you can use the hashtag ShellLottie. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So the first set of building tips and tricks I'm going to talk about are cheat related. Now, cheats in The Sims 4 when it comes to gameplay I don't really like doing. However, when it comes to building, they are super handy in terms of making a build look a lot better because you can do a lot of free placement and lots of different things that normally you can't do because you're using cheats. Now, first things first, when you want to use cheats in The Sims, you have to know how to open the cheats bar. So the way you do this on keyboard on a PC is you hit Ctrl, Shift and C all at the same time and it opens this white box in the top left of your screen. If you click there with your cursor, you can type whatever you want there. That was meant to say hello and it kind of looks like I said help. I'm fine, don't worry. And this is where you type in all of your cheats. Now, one thing that I know a lot of people have to type in for their cheats to work, but for me, I never use it. I don't know why. I don't know if my Sims game is broken or something, but it's testingcheats space true, and then it says cheats are enabled. I don't personally have to use that. I don't know if it's just because this doesn't have to be used for the cheats that I use when building, or I don't know, but when in doubt, testing cheats space true before you do any of your cheats. The first one I want to talk about is the godsend for building. This cheat is called bb.moveobjects. So you type it in as bb.moveobjects like this. You hit enter and it will normally tell you bb.moveobjects has been turned on. When you escape from this toolbar, which you click on it and you hit escape like that, and then it disappears, bb.moveobjects lets you move things off the grid. So that means I can move these all over the place, even if it goes inside a wall. It kind of lets you stop things from clashing into each other, and everything has its hitbox normally, but it lets you put things within each other's hitboxes, if that makes sense. So basically, it just allows free object movement off the grid. If you would like to see the difference between these two, this is bb.moveobjects when it's off. However, if I turn bb.moveobjects on, we can tuck things in a lot nicer. It's just very handy when trying to build because you can put things in places that Sims doesn't normally let you. The next set of cheats is to open debug. Now, if you don't know what debug is a place in the build by catalog where there's a whole bunch of stuff that you normally can't see but is already in the Sims game. The Sims game has a lot of things. If you look around, there's all of these objects, there's like ponds and stuff. All of these things that are in the surrounding scenery have to be in the catalog in the game, but it's all hidden behind cheats so that you don't get a whole bunch of objects because there's so many miscellaneous objects that the Sims team use to build all of the background scenery that you don't actually play with, you just see. So the way you access debug is you open your cheat bar with Ctrl Shift C again, and for the first cheat to unlock some debug, you do bb.showhiddenobjects. Like that, you hit enter. It won't normally tell you anything, but now when you go into the search bar on the bottom left of your screen and you type in debug, you see a bunch of this where normally if you typed in debug, nothing would come up. And then if you click on one, you can start seeing all of the debug objects that are normally in the Sims game that you don't really have access to. So that comes from a grilled cheese sandwich to lots of the drinks that you get at the bar when you order. There are mods that are external to the game and free that let you organize this debug, but normally the only thing you can do is type in debug and then it gives you all of this stuff. Some of these have names that you can look up and then you can find them. This isn't all of debug though. Another cheat you can use to unlock more of debug is bb.showliveeditobjects, and then if you hit enter on that, it gives you a whole lot of debug. So you just type in debug again. Everything should look relatively the same, but you have some more things. So there's these buildings which you probably see in the distance in places, and that's basically what debug's for. And finally, my last last cheat that I'm going to be talking about today is a cheat you can use to unlock certain things that you may not normally have unlocked because you aren't playing a certain bit of gameplay, if that makes sense. So in The Sims, there are certain objects like this one, and normally it is unlocked at level 10 of the detective career. So if you are normally building either with a sim or without a sim, there is a lock here and you can't actually access it. However, if you would like to access all these things, all you have to do is Ctrl-Shift-C, you type in here bb.ignoregameplayunlocksentitlement. And that lets you use any of these. Now this was already unlocked for me because one of the series of cheats we had already been using had unlocked it. But normally if you just want to standalone unlock some of the objects that are normally locked because of career progression, you can type in that cheat and then we can use these, which is pretty damn handy. Now we are going to be moving on to my favorite types of cheats, which are very difficult to know because they are all related to keyboard shortcuts that you have on your keyboard. So these are the generic ones. I haven't changed any of my hotkeys, so these should be pretty universal. However, there are some people that because of their language on their keyboards or different keyboards sometimes have different hotkeys and for some other reasons. So this may not work for you. There may be other keys you need to use for this, but generally these are the keys you need to use for these cool tips and tricks. So the first one is the Alt key. So that is at the bottom left of your keyboard. Now, if you're moving things around normally and you hold down Alt, it lets you move things a lot more smoothly and it lets you move things off the grid. This is what it normally looks like, and it's snapping to grids. If you hit Alt, it's a lot more free placement and it lets you move things a lot closer to other things. This is also really handy when you have bb.moveobjects on because you can like tuck things very, very close. Another thing you may have seen me doing already is this, where you can free rotate things. It has a really annoying sound, I'm not gonna lie. But normally when you rotate things, it rotates at 360, but again, it is snapping to different grids. There's the kind of 90-degree snaps, and then also there's the 45-degree snaps. However, if you hold this, so I'm holding this in my hand or with my cursor, and then you hold down Alt, and then you click and drag, it lets you drag completely 360 without any snapping to any sort of angles. And again, that is super handy when trying to be precise when placing. With the free rotation, I do want to say with the Alt free rotation, which is what I'm doing here, I'm holding Alt and then I'm clicking and dragging this around. This only works if you are in Sims 3 camera mode. Now this took a lot of getting used to for me because I started off in the Sims 4 using the Sims 4 camera mode, but in the top right, as you can see, there's a little camera thing, and if you go below it, once you open it up, it says Sims 3 camera or Sims 4 camera, and if you select the Sims 3 camera, it lets you do this free rotation. All the rest of the cheats and tips and tricks I'm giving you, I think you can use with the Sims 4 camera, but this free rotation one is specifically for Sims 3 camera, so just to let you know. Now, a lot of people don't know about this one, so it is very, very handy, but a lot of the time I have a plant and I'm like, oh, I like it, but it's a bit too big. Now, this is something you can actually change in The Sims, which is amazing. All you have to do is hold down Control on your keyboard and then the left square bracket, which is near the Enter key, you hit and it makes something smaller. And it is so, so handy because look, now I've got a little dinky plant instead of having a giant one, and it's amazing. And the same thing works when sizing up objects. So we just click on it, we hit Control, and then we do the right square bracket, which makes it bigger. And actually, there isn't much of a limit to this. You can make objects absolutely humongous to the point where the plant pot is bigger than the actual house, which is amazing. There is a limit to how small you can make things, I believe. So this is the smallest this plant pot can be. It's really handy. It does mean that objects aren't necessarily functional though. So if you size down a bed, I don't think it really works, but aesthetically, it is really, really handy when building. Next cheat I am going to show you is how to move things up and down buildings. Now, you may be like, what? You can do that normally. See, like, look at this flower pot. You can just, it's fine. However, there is a hotkey that lets you do this a little bit more precisely. However, because it is snapping off the grid essentially, because you can move things really, really high in the air or off the ground when they're not meant to be, you have to use bb.moveobjects when you use this cheat. So you just do Ctrl-Shift-C, open the cheats box and put in bb.moveobjects, and then you should be able to use this hotkey cheat. So I can take this file bed, and with bb.moveobjects, I can actually move it off the wall. So it's just floating now. now, and this is just better so I can actually show you what this cheat does. Well, it's not really a cheat, but I guess because it used bb.moveobjects, it kind of is. But all you do is you hold down shift on your keyboard, which is on the bottom left, and you hit 9. And as you can see, when you hit 9, it raises it up the floor. 9 is to move things up, and to move things down once things have been moved up, you use shift 0 and it brings things down. And it's very handy when you have like a table and you want to specifically place an object on it without snapping it to the grid. I'll give you a little example. If I hold it, control 9, and then we go, and then I can actually put it on the table. By the way, I've just realized I normally use control for this cheat. So control 9 and control 0, but shift also works, which is interesting. So for the next one, it's a pretty simple shortcut for how you can rotate objects. So normally you can use your mouse and you can drag things, but another thing you can do is use the chevron keys, which are like the greater than and less than signs. And these are a shortcut for rotating, which is pretty cool. But another thing that the chevron keys do is if you get this piece of flooring and you use a chevron key, it changes the direction of the flooring, which is super handy. So you can change something from looking like this to looking like this, which makes a lot of difference, and I do a lot with wooden flooring. Another thing that a lot of people don't know is when you are building, you normally build with a grid, as you can see, and sometimes that can be annoying. It can get in the way, like you can put down a flooring and be like, oh, I don't really know what it looks like because the grid's over the top. So one way that you can get rid of it, which is really handy, is pressing G on your keyboard and it gets rid of the grid, and then you can build without the grid, which is super handy. Speaking of flooring, another cool tip is how to make your flooring so it isn't just one block. So when you place something and you are using the grid, essentially, you are filling up one square box. But as you can see, within the square box of the grid, you have 4 smaller boxes, which is a good example with this flooring because it is divided into 4. Now, when building diagonal rooms, it's a bit annoying because you will have triangles instead for the flooring. Now, if you don't want to shift and like fill the whole space, what you can do is you can hold control, hit F, and it gives you these really small quarter triangles, and then you can build diagonally, which is super handy if you're not filling it in a room. Like, let's say I wanted the path to look a bit like this, and then you can do it, and then you just control F to get rid of it, and then it puts it back to a normal square. For the final little building hack that I use when using shortcuts is random. It's to do with roofs, and this is a really handy one, I think, in my opinion. So when building roofs, there is this little arrow which looks different to the normal dragging arrows. It's kind of this weird flat, strange one, and this allows you to extend or lessen trims. But there may be a case for some sort of reason where you want to have the trim on one side, but the other side you don't want it to go into because it may clash with another roof or something like that. The way you can use just one arrow on one side of the roof and not affect the other side is you hold down shift, you click on this arrow, and it just brings in one side of the trim, or it just brings out one side of the trim instead of what normally is doing both. Another cool thing when doing things with roofs is if you hold Alt, you can free place roofs. Here it is snapping to some sort of grid of placement. Here it's a lot more smooth and you have more flexibility when adjusting roof heights, which is really handy. Now, speaking of roofs, I'm just going to move on to 2 more little tips and tricks when building, which are a bit random, don't really have a category, but this one is to do with roofs. A lot of the time we want to make a roof which looks like this. However, this kind of thing doesn't always look nice, and I don't really like this overhang. So what you would normally do is you drag this back here, then you have this really annoying thing of this overhang. So normally some people would go, okay, let's just drag this in, but then you want an overhang over here, but to do that you have to actually put in 2 roofs. So normally what I would do is I would drag it to about here. If I didn't like this tiny section bit of trim, I would use our shift hotkey and I'd move in the trim a little bit like that. Then I would get the exact same roof, I would duplicate it and put it right next to it. And then on this roof, I would move in the trimming like that. Then you can move this to wherever you liked. It looks like this is one whole cohesive roof, and then the trimming ends there, and you don't have the weird sticky out bit here. So it's kind of perfect. Next thing is a little bit random, but a pretty handy thing to know if you don't already. So when you are dealing with rooms, and I'm gonna put the walls up, if you click on a room it gives you all of these dimensions, I guess. For those of you who don't know, if you have this open when you've selected a room and you click on the floor, it tells you to remove the floor very easily instead of if someone wanted to do that. It's just another way of doing it. Also, when you've got this view, instead of removing the floor, you can also click on walls, which lets you remove walls easily. It also lets you really easily replace things with half walls, and the same with fences. This is also really handy when doing open basements. So in my London townhouse, which I'm building at the moment, and I will be finishing on stream on Saturday, actually, this Saturday, I have this open balcony where we have a building here and I have a balcony below. Let's say this is a building and you want a open lower basement balcony in front of it. So all you have to do is I build a little basement here. You just go down here, you click on this. We're going to go up a level now, and then we're going to click on this yellow bit and remove ceiling. And there we go. Now it's open. But I think that is pretty much it for my building tips, tricks, cheats, hacks, all of those cool things. So if you did like the video, do give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comment section what other videos you would like to see on this channel. If you would like to see a part 2 to this and I can figure out which other ones I use, because I guess I use them so regularly, a lot of these I have to think about it and be like, oh yeah, I do that, and maybe some people don't do that. Also, feel free to hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for videos every Wednesday and a live stream here on YouTube on Saturday. Also, feel free to check out my Twitch in the description, and that is pretty much it. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!